Mike Gill in the house, just like he is every Monday morning. I'll be on 973 ESPN radio this afternoon with the Sports Bash from Ocean Casino. But Mike Gill, I don't want to say it was a wild day in the NFL because it didn't feel like it, but if you're an Eagles fan, it was a pretty good day.
Yeah, I mean, you had I don't know. It might have been a good day in terms of the results, but you're going to get a week of Dallas fans now acting like this is the greatest team that they've had since the 70s. I mean, other than that, the Giants losing pushes them back. Obviously, Minnesota, you were hoping Minnesota was going to lose. In reality, that was a better outcome for the Eagles fans. And look, the Eagles got a hard-fought road win, which was not aesthetically pleasing, but was a very solid result and a lot of things to build off in that one.
Yeah, and you're right about I heard a Dallas fan say to me on Twitter yesterday on the Bird app, because people aren't rational on the Bird app, you only beat the Colts by 1. The Cowboys won by 37. I'm like, I don't care. Win's a win, man. Like, great, you beat the Vikings. I'm not sure the Vikings are any good.
Well, I was one of the few, I felt anyway, for at least a week or two. I had Dallas still ahead of Minnesota, even after Minnesota had beaten the Bills. I had said one of the reasons why I believed in Minnesota, which is one of the reasons they struggled yesterday, was I thought their offensive line was much improved. When Darisaw went out, they were a disaster up front. You take Darisaw off that line, the line becomes a problem again. With him on the line, they moved up and down the field early in the game. Hawkinson had a drop touchdown early. They threw the ball. Hawkinson again, he missed it. They had a shot early to get on the board, and it looked like it was going to be a back-and-forth shootout there. And then the injury happened, and that line turned – I think Cousins must have got hit 15 times the minute that Darisaw went out. But one of the reasons why I thought Minnesota was at least a team that you could say, okay, I didn't think Minnesota was a Super Bowl team, but a team that you can at least see win a playoff game was because their offensive line has been such a problem over the years, and the two tackles are legitimate players in this league. The Vikings have not had that, and it's the minute he went out, their offense just went south, and the defense, my gosh, they got gashed yesterday. And one of the problems I had with Minnesota was just didn't believe in their defense all that much. Dallas, on the other hand, this was, and I'll give a lot of credit, we've been asking for Kellen Moore, hey, if you're going to get the running backs back, you got to feature these guys. The game cannot be won by Dak Prescott. It has to be won. And they really simplified the offense yesterday. Now, Dak had a good game as well, made some plays down the field. The game's out of hand at that point. But I thought Tony Pollard, the way they used those guys was a much better mix for those two guys. And they look, for 1 week, they looked as best as they've had in a long time on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and I'll say this. You're right. This is the best version they use the Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. You let Pollard do his thing between the 20s, and then Ezekiel Elliott gets the ball in the red zone, and he's still one of the best battering rams in this league. I thought that was a perfectly executed offensive game plan by that offense and by Kellen Moore yesterday. I couldn't have been more impressed by them. And now they're trying to recruit Odell Beckham to this team, and Odell Beckham's going to talk to them on Friday. He's going to talk to the Giants, I believe, on Friday too, if I'm not mistaken. But, Mike, it feels like the Giants definitely need Odell Beckham because they're just – players are dropping like flies.
Well, and they lose Wan'Dale Robinson yesterday, who was having a big day for them. They've already are limited on offense. You lose possibly your best offensive playmaker on the outside. And I actually, I was on another show on Saturday and they asked me about that game. I said, I like the Lions outright in that game. I thought the Lions would be an outright winner. I just felt that the Giants' propensity to win these close games, the Lions are a team who, by the way, have now won 3 straight. Their defense has gotten much better since they fired the defensive coordinator out there.
Or the defensive backs coach, I think.
Defensive backs coach, I'm sorry. They've played much better defensively. They gave up 9 points a couple of weeks ago. Yesterday, another day where they really tightened the screws. But I felt like the Giants were not able to handle getting into an up and down type of game. You know, the first week of the year, we saw what the Lions want to do. And Philadelphia was able to get up and down with them. Not so much with the Giants. And then you start to have injuries. And then yesterday, their defense. You can only play that level of defense for so long before you have a week where you just don't have it to bring. And I love the Lions in that game yesterday. And now both those teams have to turn her back around and play on Thursday, in which becomes a very important game for the Giants. Because, look, I feel like we just all kind of had as a rite of passage. They were 7-2, and we're just like, okay, they're going to make the playoffs. Their schedule's brutal coming up, the Giants. So with injuries and that loss yesterday, that's a game where you're like, okay, they're playing the Lions. You got to get this win if you're a legitimate team. And I think we saw the Giants are moving in the right direction, but they just don't have the talent right now.
Yeah, you're right. The Giants, I thought they needed to beat Detroit yesterday just to hold serve, if you will. So, you go into that Thanksgiving game 8-2, no matter what happens, you still got that buffer zone. You don't have that buffer zone anymore. Now you're facing the red-hot Cowboys team, who, again, I still don't know what to make of them because they lose to the Packers, who really aren't that great. Then they go blow out the Vikings on the road. How's this going to translate for Dallas now? Because are they going to get big heads again? Or are they going to let the Giants hang in this game? Or it's going to be a very intriguing matchup while you're eating your turkey on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important one. We don't see a lot of important games happening on Thanksgiving over the years. Most of these games have kind of been just like background noise. But this game actually, look, if Dallas, they ran, I think Pollard and Elliott had 15 carries each yesterday. And that's a great game plan for them against a team like the Giants, because the Giants are another team that they do. The one thing with the Giants on a short week, which could come into play here, Dallas is generally an undisciplined team, right? They get penalized. They make mistakes. The Giants have been very clean all season long. Playing on a short week where there's a lot more attention to detail, less during the week, I should say, because you're not practicing, you're not really doing anything. How will that translate to a short week? And I think the Giants' hope is that Dallas gets a little sloppy, comes out and is, not crisp because they just played, and that they can keep the game kind of tight and close. But if the game goes like yesterday, and Dallas, I would imagine, will take a look at what Detroit had success with, and I don't want to say emulate it, but follow a little bit of that blueprint. Here's the problem for the Giants. They can't throw the ball a lick, right? And Dallas wants to, but Dallas does not stop the run very well. That we know. So this should be a very interesting chess match of, is the Giants' run game better than the Dallas run defense? Obviously, yes. But what will Dan Quinn do to try to fill those holes? Because they know, hey, you want to try to challenge us on the outside, have a blast. Because this is the kind of game where Diggs will either, he'll either have a monster game with 2 interceptions and have a field day, or they pick on him all day and they just say, you know what, we're going to go try to go one-on-one, take a couple shots down the hill. The problem is they don't have a guy to throw the ball to.
Yeah, you're right, which is why they need a guy like Odell Beckham. I'm glad you brought up the run game, because I'll segue to the Eagles here. The Eagles' biggest weakness was their run defense. Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, if you want to call them patches to a leaky pipe, they're more like what's the word I'm looking for, Mike? What's that flex seal? That's what they are. They are the flex seal. They are guaranteed to work. And boy, they shut down Jonathan Taylor after that first drive yesterday. Yeah,
the first drive of the game, it looked like more of the same. And then after that, they really made a couple of adjustments. And really, I mean, last week we saw, there was so much debate about the run game last week. They gave up 3 yards a carry, but gave up over 150 yards. Washington was able to continue to run the ball. They stuck with it. Give them a lot of credit. I thought Indianapolis got away from it, especially that one drive. They threw 3 straight passes. But the difference in the game for me, last week against Washington, the average third down was 3rd and 4. And that's a rundown. Washington saying, we'll run the ball again. Yesterday, the Eagles, after that first drive, and then even the second drive, or I think the third drive, they had a 3rd and 1, and the Eagles got to stop. But after that, the third downs were a lot more challenging, and that changes the play call. So the Eagles' run defense did a decent job last week. They just – third down, they had problems getting on the field because the third downs were 3rd and short, and Washington was disciplined enough to stick with the run. Indianapolis could not get into that 3rd and short enough, And then that put them – they just could not throw the ball. They don't have a lot of weapons either. Matt Ryan's a shot fighter. But definitely adding those two guys made a huge difference in the run game. Forget yesterday, just moving forward. Because now there's some reports Jordan Davis should be back. They're hoping to get him back for the Tennessee game. Now you have really Joseph and Davis that you can rotate those two guys and play that defense a little bit more. They couldn't play it as much successfully with just Davis because they didn't have really a backup to Davis. Now you bring Joseph and it turns into that the injury may have turned into it. And I talked about this, that these injuries, sometimes you need a little bumps in the road. I talked about last year, the Rams, people act like, oh, they won the Super Bowl and they were this great team. Go look at who the Rams beat last year. They didn't have one decent win other than week 3 last year. They beat Tampa Bay. Other than that, they didn't win a good game all year long. They played a pretty weak schedule. The only losses they had, they lost to Arizona, they lost to San Francisco twice, and they lost to one other team that was just a decent team. They didn't win a game where you're like, see, they're a good team. They beat this team and this team and this team. They beat who was on their schedule. In the middle of their year, they had a little bump in the road. They had a 3-game losing streak. Can you imagine the Super Bowl champions didn't beat anybody all year long and had a 3-game losing streak? Well, it just happened last year. But they turned the corner after that 3-game losing streak and got moving and got the Beckham deal and got Von Miller in there and started to make some changes. Well, the Eagles needed a couple spare parts. They went out and started to get them. And look, they didn't even have a 3-game losing streak. They got through that game yesterday, which could have easily been a on-the-road loss while you're trying to get through these injuries. But they found a way to win that game. But the run defense, I don't know, is it not a problem anymore? Well, they got a bunch of teams coming up here that are going to challenge them to find out.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think for 1 week we could say, hey, I think the run defense is significantly better. But I want to get your take on yesterday's game, Mike, because I know a lot of people were panicking over the play calling by Shane Steichen and some of the stuff the Eagles were doing. And I don't know. To me, that whole game, I just kept saying, the Colts aren't winning that game. And I actually argued with a guy I work with at CBS who is an Eagles fan. He tends to think a little bit differently than most people. I'll just say this. He's like, well, you got to give Jeff Saturday credit. And I said, why? What are the Colts doing to beat the Eagles right now? I felt like the Eagles are beating themselves.
Yeah, the offense seemed discombobulated all day. You talk about Goddard not being there. I don't know what they were trying to be. And then late in that game, they finally decided, you know what, we're going to be the team we were last year. When we were struggling at our worst last year, 2-5, we turned into a team that leaned on the run game and really went that direction. Because in the past game, they couldn't figure out what they were doing, what was going on. A.J. Brown, you thought he had 7 targets. You thought that he was going to be maybe the guy that got a boost in the targets without Goddard. Here's another thing, though. While we're talking about the play calling and, what was going on, they had a couple drives moving. And then, ironically, the tight ends kept getting whistled. I mean, you had Stoll get a penalty. Calcaterra got a penalty. I mean, I think the 3 tight ends, Tyree Jackson had a penalty. I think they all had a penalty at one point. And I think that aided to a little bit of the problems in the first half. They were penalized 4 times, 3 on 1 drive. So I'd like to see what happens if those penalties don't rear their ugly heads there. But there's no question they are trying to figure out who they are and what they are without Dallas Goedert. That was apparent yesterday.
Yeah, and, you were bringing up the penalties here. I was very disappointed in those penalties. And I know people were saying that's not a penalty. I'm like, they're penalties. Tyree Jackson's was a penalty. I know someone said, oh, well, that's a route he's running. I said, it's a penalty. It's always going to be a penalty. And like Tone's pointing out here in the chat room, at one point, the Eagles were 1st and 35. They were moving the ball on that drive.
Yeah.
If you recall, that's what was so frustrating about it. And I'm like, okay, this team, it just doesn't feel like the Colts are beating them just on that one drive. And I said, I don't think the Colts can score 20. So I think 20 points is going to be enough to win. And I don't know, when Jalen Hurts had that 23-yard run and followed that with the 22-yard touchdown pass to Quez Watkins, I said, okay, they get a stop, they're going to win the game. And they did get a stop, but then just a weird situation. But it was just a weird game overall.
That one, and then don't forget, the Jason Kelsey snap, that played a factor. That's a high snap. Who knows what happens on that play? But they ended up not getting 6 in that situation either. They just look. It was a team that played on the road. Look, and the Colts have a pretty solid defense. Statistically, they are very good against the run and against the pass. It's a solid defense. I don't know if they say that again.
Top 10 defense.
Yeah, no, if you watch them all year, their defense hasn't been their issue. I mean, their quarterback play, they went to Ellinger. They don't have a lot of weapons on the outside. Their offensive line was supposedly supposed to be one of their strengths. That has not happened. They've had some injuries. Matt Pryor ended up not playing. I think he got sick yesterday before the game. Not that Pryor is some all-pro, but they've had some line issues all year. And then, of course, they have the coaching change. But their defense is pretty solid. And, but go back to that snap, like you're just thinking, now this, like Jason Kelly, last week we were laughing because we're like, you really want them to take Darius Slay off the field because people were complaining that Slay was getting roasted by McLaurin last week. And you're like, what are they going to do? Are you going to put in like Marcus Goodwin? But of all guys to hinder your ability to score a touchdown, it was Kelsey with that snap that really took him out of rhythm.
Yeah, again, and what did you think of the Jalen Hurts drive, Mike?
Before I get into the Jalen Hurts drive, we'll add this too. This is the second week in a row that the Eagles have turned the ball over, though. They had a couple fumbles in the game, and you see they come out of the halftime, and they had not looked good in the first half, and then they turned the ball right over. I mean, so this is 2 weeks in a row now where we're talking about, they've been a plus 15 entering the Washington game. Well, now they've turned the ball over, and look at the difference in these games just by the 2 turnovers. But obviously, all the turnovers, the penalties, and then I'll tell you, Hurts had that look. If we're just reading body language, when they kept going to him, his face looked like I would rather be anywhere else in the world but where I'm at right now. I mean, he just had a look of almost disinterest at times, almost like somebody said something to him that he didn't jive with. And the reaction to this is that this is the effort I'm going to give you. Obviously, I'm not questioning that. He just had this look on his face of disinterest. But when push came to shove in the end, the Eagles said, hey, man, we need you. We need to lean on you to get us this game. And he's like, oh, now you need me? Okay, I'll show you how it's done. Now, there's 2 ways you could look at this. They dialed it back to the 2021 offense and just marked Miles Sanders. Boston Scott's in the game late. I know a lot of people were kind of scratching their heads at some of the things there. But when push came to shove in the biggest moment of the game, they dialed up a play for Jalen Hurts. And if Patrick Mahomes didn't have the night he had last night, we could be talking about that was Jalen Hurts' MVP moment. And if he ends up winning it, you can look back to that drive right there.
Yeah, that's why I think it's going to be so hard to beat Patrick Mahomes for MVP, because it feels like every time you do something to win MVP, Patrick Mahomes just takes it right back. But I wanted to get on this last drive here. I thought Hurts had the big the 4th and 2 run. But the play before the actual 4th and 2 run, that's going to be etched in my brain forever, what Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen were trying to do.
Yeah, it was weird because you're like, what? You're right. It almost leaves you speechless. You're thinking, is this really happening? Am I watching what's going on right now? And I don't know, so I want to hear what you thought when you were watching this, because I want to see if we're on the same wavelength here.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, don't snap the ball, call timeout. So I guess he did the right move, but I'm thinking, this is what you came up with?
Yeah, exactly. From 2 yards out, you really were sitting there thinking that, and there's so many different things here because it's like a full 2 yards that you need to get here. You think you're just going to push Jalen Hurts forward? I mean, the NFL has to look into this whole pushing the quarterback thing too. You're not allowed to pull them, but you can push them forward, that whole thing. But you're in literally victory formation with 4th down and 2. You think you're going to get them to jump off sides? I mean,
did you notice A.J. Brown was lined up kind of next to Hurts to his
the only thing I was thinking is, are they going to like almost fake a quarterback sneak and then pitch it to the outside? I don't remember who was lined up direct because there was like a little huddle behind him. Who was like the deep
Yeah,
back?
so Brown was next to Hurts on the left side. I
Right.
got to look at it again. I want to say it was Stoll on the right, but I'm not exactly sure.
Well, whoever was the back, you're thinking, okay, could he kind of flare out to the outside, act like you're diving forward for a quarterback sneak, and then basically kind of like pitch it to the outside because you know that the Colts are all out committing to trying to stop that quarterback sneak with that alignment. But I don't know. It's a play that Andy Reid might design. He comes up with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the only difference is he has an all-world quarterback and an all-world offense to do that. I'm not sure if the Eagles have the personnel to make that work, but I did want to add this. I thought when the Eagles called the timeout and made it a lot simpler, I think they just said, all right, shotgun, Jalen, go. And that probably should have been what they did before, but maybe that was part of the plan. I don't know. I'd love to ask Nick this. Like, what was going through your mind there? Were you trying to get that defense off guard?
I would imagine, yeah, he was just trying to get them to jump and maybe get the first down, and they didn't. I mean, there's not much. I think that just the formation made it seem like they're not doing anything here. Like the fact that you showed victory formation, like what did you think they think that you were going to do other than just push the quarterback forward? I don't know. I mean, that's a full 2 yards. That wasn't like a 4th and inches situation.
Yeah.
So it was definitely an odd spot there. And I don't know. I mean, again, like if they have a play that you can call out of that formation down the road that you can do that again. Like, are you setting something up for, sometimes fans don't think like this. Like a coach might say, hey, listen, I'm going to show this now. We won't do anything. But if we show this again down the road, we're going to have a play to run out of that look. Maybe, I don't know. But you're right. I was wondering, I'm like, what is everybody thinking about right now? Like, what are other fans thinking about as they're watching the Eagles come out in victory formation down with 4th down and 2?
Yeah. So I think the weirdest type of formation I've seen over the last couple of weeks, it's funny how both teams I cover the Eagles and I went to Penn State, how it correlates here. So Penn State does this like kind of T formation where they have both Nick Singleton and NK Tron Allen in the backfield. And it's 3rd and 2, right? This is 2 weeks ago. It's 3rd and 2. They give the ball to Allen, who's on Sean Clifford's right. He gets a yard and he runs to the left. So Franklin goes back to it on 4th and 1 and does the same play, but does it the opposite to Singleton, and Singleton gets a 70-yard touchdown. Like, maybe that's why he did that.
And I guess one other thing that you think comes out of this is you're trying to also get them to jump, but maybe they take a timeout because of your formation is one other thing I guess you could think of.
Yeah.
Like if they see what's going on here, what's that?
They didn't use the timeout. The Eagles.
No, I'm saying, but maybe you're also trying to get them to be like, well, we got to talk it over here. What's going on here? It didn't happen, but that's, I guess, when you're looking at possibilities here is either A, the Eagles are trying to use that formation down the road again and set something up, or B, Sirianni is trying to just say, all right, if I can get them to call a timeout here, that'll burn one of their timeouts.
How upsetting was it to you that they didn't really have Miles Sanders in toward the end of the game, and they didn't really give Miles Sanders the ball as much as they probably should have yesterday?
Yeah, he had 13 carries, and most of them seemingly were later on in the game. They did get him a good rhythm going. I mean, they kind of had him, but it was weird at weird times he wasn't out there. It was like he was having some nice runs, getting some good things going. He ended up with 13 carries on the day, but in some of the bigger moments, like I like Boston Scott, though. I don't think they use him enough, but in that moment, you were like, whoa, you got Boston Scott out here. It feels like Boston Scott, anytime he is asked to play a bigger role, the team either wins and or he has a pretty big game. So I'm not like, what are you doing using Boston Scott? But Miles Sanders seemingly, I mean, he averaged 5.5 yards a carry yesterday. In the second half, he looked like he was in a rhythm. And it almost felt like Sanders was just one shoestring tackle or trip away from breaking a big one. He seemed to have a good burst getting through that initial line of scrimmage. But yeah, it was a weird, like Boston Scott would be in there. There was a big play in that game where they gave the ball to Boston Scott. You're thinking, wow, this is I guess they're showing some trust in ball. I like Scott though. I feel like they don't have enough ways of getting him involved in the offense because I feel like good things do happen when he's a bigger part of the offense. Gainwell's been a disappointment. He had the drop last week in the game. He's a guy that you thought could have been and I think without Goddard, one of the things they have to figure out is getting the running backs involved in the passing game more. They're
bad.
I was going to say, I don't think a running back, Sanders had a catch for a yard.
Oh, that catch that Sanders had, he goes to the outside, and I'm like, what are you doing? There's the middle of the field. You could have got like 30 yards, maybe even more than that. I thought he scored a touchdown after he caught that. No, he cuts to the outside, and he only gets like 3. And I'm thinking,
Sean Bradley disagrees with you on that. Did you see that tweet?
No, I didn't.
I don't know who it was that said Miles Sanders went to the outside here, and Sean Bradley quote tweeted it and said, what would you have done? Run to the inside and got – basically he's saying to the fans, and by stopping the video, it looks like there's all this room. He's like, but these defensive ends are so fast. This guy, I forget who it was on pursuit and would have been there to make the tackle had he cut it back inside.
Well, I think Sanders would have gotten more yards if he goes inside. It just looked like on TV there was a lot more room. But I'd love to hear Sanders' vantage point on, because I didn't think of it right away. I'm like, I just said, why are you going outside? It looked like there was much more room if you cut in. I don't think that DM would have caught him, but I definitely think he would have gotten at least 5 yards if he went inside.
Maybe, yeah. I look, the running backs, Sanders as a rookie was a big part of the pass game. He had like 50 catches as a rookie. He hasn't caught 50 balls combined since then. I would imagine he hasn't caught 50 balls combined between the next 3 seasons from his rookie year. Boston Scott's a guy who should be able to catch the ball out of the backfield and make some matchup problems, especially with Goddard out. And Gainwell, who's been a disappointment, his kind of bread and butter was catching the ball out of the backfield. They haven't got him involved they've got to do a much better job of getting those backs involved in the pass game, especially you would think with the Goddard out to have another little safety valve option. That is one thing that lacks from this offense right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's been like that the last 2 years, Mike. So overall, though, I mean, we did talk a lot of NFC East earlier in the segment, but does it feel like 3 teams from this division will still make the playoffs?
Yeah, because I think Washington's in the mix. And I liked Washington at the beginning of the years. They're not the big. It's not a surprise to me that Washington's in the mix. It's how they've gotten there that has been the surprise. Look, I didn't think the Giants would be in position to make the playoffs. I thought their organization was going to take a step forward, not be in the mix for the playoffs. But Washington was the team. Look, they're winning games. They're playing hard for the quarterback. They're going to get Chase Young back. Their defense is already pretty solid. Their offense is not – with the quarterback's limitations, their offense isn't great, but McLaurin's a nice player. He's not a nice player. He's a great player. Curtis Samuel's a good player. The 2 running backs they have both, do their job. Their offensive line is good. It's not great. If the quarterback doesn't make mistakes or hurt them, which he hasn't so far, he just doesn't help them win. He just stays out of the way. And, he's got a lot of fire and emotion, and they play for that. How long can that last? But, yeah, I think the NFC East will probably end up with 3 because I think the South is obviously only going to get 1. And I think the North is probably only going to get Minnesota. I think Green Bay's shot.
By the way, do you want to take a stab on who's in second place in the NFC North right now?
Probably Detroit.
It is.
They've won 3 in a row. And then in the West, Arizona plays tonight against San Francisco. If Arizona wins that game, I guess they're on the peripheral of the wild card. it'll be interesting to see if Seattle can keep it going. Otherwise, that division might only get one. Although, it's like the Seattle Giants who played each other, right? So the winner of that game, who won that game? The Seattle won that game. So they would have a slim advantage over the Giants there. But those are the two bigger surprise teams right now that are in this wild card race. But I think the NFC East almost definitively gets 3.
Yeah. So if the 49ers win tonight, they actually take over first place in the NFC West because they have the tiebreaker. So Seattle would fall. But yeah, you're right. If Arizona wins, they're going to be in that conundrum, and Washington actually will be the 7th seed. And before I let you go, Mike, I know people want to say, the 49ers are in the conversation with the Eagles and the Cowboys for the best teams in the NFC, but I'm not ready to crown them yet at 5-4. They have to show me a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm one of them. I think San Francisco is a team, much like last year. Dallas got stuck playing San Francisco in the first round. San Francisco's record wasn't anything special, but you for damn sure did not want to get matched up with them. And one of the problems with San Francisco has been they've had injuries. Well, are we sure they're going to be healthy? No. But if they are healthy, that's a team that you want no part of. They're physical on defense. They have playmakers on defense, and they got playmakers on offense. I mean, this is a team that can beat you in a variety of ways. Look, George Kittle, for some, was the best tight end in football, maybe top 3. He hasn't been a part of the offense at all this year. Are they waiting? Right? Are they waiting to get him involved, or do they just have so many other options before they get to Kittle? I mean, if they can get Kittle going in that offense, I mean, Samuel's fantastic. The running game's really good, regardless of who runs the ball for them. That's a team, to me, that has, much like we thought with Philadelphia for most of the season, can beat you running, passing. Their defense is solid. They just couldn't stay healthy. And now you're seeing the problem for Philadelphia when you're not healthy. It alters some of the things that you're really good at. The Eagles and the good teams figure out ways to get through it, but not having all your pieces does hurt. And San Francisco's played a lot of this year without some key pieces, and yet they're still at the top of the division.
Yeah, Eli Mitchell, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. You're right, Mike. It's just a variety of riches. But I got to let you go. Running short on time here. I'll be on the Sports Bachelor tonight, but you guys will be on at Ocean Casino again today, right?
Yes, we'll be at Ocean today, every Monday, Ocean Casino. I'm on the road 3 days this week, actually. Today, Ocean. Tomorrow, Chickies and Pete's in Atlantic City. And Wednesday, I will be at the world-famous Maynard's in Margate.
All right. So if you're in South Jersey, be sure to visit the Sports Bash this week. By the way, before I let you go, do we have a Friday show this week?
No Friday show.
Okay. Yeah. It's weird. Yeah. Good Morning NFC East. It's like that too. We don't have a Thursday and Friday show this week. But once again, Mike Gill, thanks for coming on again on Monday, and I'll talk to you tonight.
All right, guys. See ya.
Okay. And